I have no idea why companies put the front brake on the left side. It just doesn't make sense. So today on the Nova 3, we're going to be swapping the brake lines.
So first off, I want to say I'm not a mechanic. I've never done this before. This is just a documentation of my process and how I'm getting it done. I'm taking off these first, but never done this before. It's all trial and error, and you're seeing it firsthand. I do know that DOT fluids can take .4 or 5.1, and it's corrosive to paint. So I don't want it to get on anything. So just as a precaution, I've put down a tarp and a trash bag. All right, now that everything's clear, I can remove these boots and check out what the cables look like. This is another step. This is going to be an extra step, and I can tell you why, what I see. So this is a crimp fitting. Normally, you would just loosen this up and lift up. No, it's turning the whole cable. So normally you would just undo this nut here with the 8mm, at least mine's 8mm, and this would slide down, pull the line, swap them out. But since this is a crimped fitting, I'm going to have to take the whole brake off and spin the brake in a circle. Before I forget, I need to label my lines because I want to make sure that if I have to walk away or something happens, that I can come back and know which line is which and not have to trace it and all that stuff. It shouldn't be hard, but it's easier just to put a little piece of masking tape in rear and front, which labeling this just makes me, again, I don't want to go into a rant, but if I'm coming from a dirt bike or a motorcycle and I'm going for a ride, then I grab that rear brake and I end up doing a front flip because it's the front brake, I'm going to be super mad. I just think it's dangerous and reckless that e-bike companies do that backwards. But that's just my opinion. That's how I see it. So that's why we're doing this whole process. I've run into another obstacle. Can't just remove the brake and spin the brake because of your brake sensor. So if you don't know, this is your brake sensor. It stays pushed in, and that tells the bike that you haven't pulled the brake. When you pull it, it releases a little button. Oop, and you can see I'm releasing some fluid there. When you pull it, it releases this button, and the sensor says, hey, the brake's been pulled, and it turns the motor off. So I'll show how to disengage that later, but let's go ahead and undo this and remove it so we can spin the brake. The line is now fully free. I'm gonna pull apart that last piece. There you go. As you can see, nothing's dripped out of it. The reservoir still has fluid in it. I'm gonna put this to the side at an angle so that it doesn't be able to leak out or anything. And we wanna make sure we kind of keep this tipped up and do the same thing for the rear brake. I'm gonna put the front brake on this one. And that's it. The front brake is now on the right side. So we're gonna do the same thing on the rear and reconnect our brake sensors. So everything is reassembled. It's just kind of a cleaning and making sure everything is tight. So I'm gonna do my final turn and just make sure that the cable is snug on there. So there we go. Okay, so brake lines are snug. Now I will say I did lose a few drops, and you can see there's an air bubble on the other side. I'll have to show you in a minute, but the brake goes all the way down. And so we're gonna have to take this reservoir off and bleed the brakes. But you can clearly see the front line is now on the right and the rear brake line is on the left. I do this real slow and make sure we don't mess up that washer. There you go. You can see the underside. This is like a big rubber gasket basically. So if I squeeze it real slow, we should get some air bubbles out of it. Yep, there we go. There's one. Yep, there's another one. And so I'm going to continually do this until I can get all those bubbles out of the line. I might tap it a little bit, just be real careful, and just slowly kind of pump that brake fluid and get all the bubbles out. Once you see all the bubbles come out, then I'm going to add a little bit of fluid to it so that the reservoir will be almost full, not all the way. If you fill this up all the way, when you put this gasket back on it, it'll overflow. Now I only had a couple drops because that's all I lost, and it looks like it's at a good level. I want you to kind of show with this one the trick, especially because it's so full, that I got the bubbles out. So you want to squeeze real slow, otherwise the pressure will kind of shoot the fluid out, and then just let the brake go. So when you let it go like that, some little tiny bubbles are coming up. Every time I let go, look, there's one. Oh, see, if you squeeze it too hard, it'll shoot the fluid out.
All right, that's it. We're done. The brakes are finished. They feel quite nice. And this way, we don't have to, let me take this off.
So yeah, I did that without having to spend a dime. I happen to have the DOT fluid, so if you're trying to do this process, you might need to get some, because I did have to top off each of them. Now, I did this, I could have changed the whole brake and put a whole different brake caliper and all that, but I like to make my videos to where anybody can do that, or do different parts or swap things. It makes it easy. Now, I'm not a mechanic, don't follow this process. I'm just documenting what I do to all my bikes, and you know, maybe it'll help somebody in the long run with their bike. Something that I didn't show on camera, if you follow that brake sensor and go down the line, you'll follow it to a connector, and when you pull it, that's red. And so that is the rear brake sensor. So now if you pull the brake, the throttle will still turn. Otherwise, you leave that connected, pull the rear brake, the throttle's not going to turn. It's going to turn the motor off. So I like to leave the front brake alone, because that works the tail light. And so I like, when I stop at a red light, I can pull the front brake and people know I'm stopping. The tail light still works. So that's about it. And I think I got everything. So that's it for fixing the Nova 3 brakes and putting them how they correctly should be. The front brake on the left, the rear brake on the right. And so thanks for watching to the end. Now turn off your device and head out on a ride.